Welcome back. Let's go back to our top story now. The second phase of the COVID-19 vaccination rollout has commenced, but not without challenges. For more on this, I'm joined by Alex van den Heever from the Wits School of Governance. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it, Alex. So you've heard everything that's happened over the past day or so regarding the vaccination rollout. Are you optimistic or not?
I am optimistic. I did not expect day one to go very well. I think it's going to have a lot of teething problems, a lot of new vaccination sites introduced, and a number of provinces that just weren't ready, but are going to be under huge pressure to be ready very soon. So it's not unexpected that there would be these teething problems. I did expect a bit more from them, but I think that we have the ability to gather momentum from this point.
I was asking Masejo about this because the health minister was very optimistic in saying that he wants healthcare workers, the rest of them, and that's over 500,000, I should point out, to be vaccinated by the end of the week. Given our history over the past couple of months, how likely is that? There's the 500,000 that would have been vaccinated as part of the Sisonke trial. In fact, the total number of healthcare workers is substantially larger than that, so there's about another 500,000. I doubt very much they would be vaccinated within the next week or so. The question really is whether they can access the vaccine sites as efficiently as they could in the Sisonke trial. But obviously the trial process was a lot slower. There's a lot more of a sort of bureaucratic requirement around it that would slow access. But I think that they need to be completed as soon as possible, very definitely. But the over 60s need to be really ramped up very, very quickly, particularly if we have a risk of a third wave. And then, of course, the double dose with Pfizer is something the minister spoke about at length as well. He says that they're now looking at giving the second dose after 3 months, given international studies, instead of 3 weeks. What would you say to that?
I think the scientists behind it, the vaccinologists, will have to say whether or not that poses a risk. Certainly what I've seen is it's not entirely problematic. There's still a fairly significant degree of immunity that's provided by the first dose and for a length of time, and the sort of the loss of immunity would be very small in extending the period or even shortening it. So I don't see that as a huge risk. I think it's just better that people get the doses, they get the first doses. Getting a booster shot will definitely help, even if it's later.
Yeah. Alex, you were quite critical of government's vaccination rollout process over the past couple of months whenever I spoke to you. Given that we're seeing more Pfizer vaccines arrive in the country every week and we're seeing this vaccination process actually officially start nationally, are you a bit more optimistic now about things?
I think we could have been a lot further on. I am definitely more optimistic. I'm extremely glad that South Africa has managed to negotiate for 31 million doses from Johnson & Johnson. But we are not receiving those doses yet. So there's a hold-up, which is why they're rolling out first with Pfizer. But essentially those doses have to come online. And it will be incredibly important that we boost our rollout so that we are vaccinating upward of 300,000 people per day, because my big concern is that the Quebec plant is able to produce 1 million doses a day, and what they don't use on it per day in South Africa, they're going to export. So the faster we roll out, the more doses earlier we will get from Johnson & Johnson. And I think we really do have to make sure that we do not export a substantial portion of that, or by basically tripping ourselves up and not having the largest possible rollout we can get.
Yeah, and in terms of the reach of the vaccination process across the country, I mean, the Pfizer vaccine has some restrictions given how it has to be stored at -70 degrees, right? Are we adequately getting across the country with this rollout right now?
The Pfizer vaccine is going to really be prioritized for urban areas, which I think is logical, and it's a good vaccine to get. And the Johnson & Johnson is much easier to deliver in rural areas. So that's been the sort of provisional logic and idea.
But it does make sense to make that distribution. But there are some rural areas that can be reached with the kind of approaches they've taken to protect the cold chain for Pfizer. People have been thinking about this problem for quite a while, but we will have to see it in practice. But I think for now, Pfizer is going to be pretty much an urban response.
All right, great. Thank you so much for your time and your input. Appreciate it. That was Alex van den Heever from the Wits School of Governance.